Today, let's talk about one of the most important documents in the history of experimental science. Now, you'd think it was written in a quiet lab, or maybe in a university library, right? Nope. This was written back in 1269 by a soldier in the middle of a chaotic military siege. And believe me, the story of how it came to be is just as incredible as the science inside.
So think about this for a second. How on earth did a simple letter, penned almost 800 years ago, become the actual blueprint for technology we literally can't live without today? We're talking about a direct line from a medieval battlefield to the device in your hand right now.
And what if I told you that one of the first, truly methodical, hands-on investigations into a fundamental force of nature didn't come from a place of peace and quiet contemplation, but from the most unlikely, most chaotic setting imaginable?
Okay, so this is the man at the center of our story, Petrus Peregrinus De Magnete, or Peter the Pilgrim. He was a French scholar, a brilliant mathematician, and in the year 1269, a military engineer laying siege to the city of Lucera in southern Italy. And it was right there, amidst the noise and chaos of war, that he wrote this revolutionary work. Now, our look into this moment comes from a few key sources, especially a translation of his letter by Brother Arnold, the work of historian Amelia Sparavigna, and the Wikipedia article on Peregrinus. As always, you can find the links to the full bibliography in the description below.
So, let's really set the scene. It's August 1269. Peregrinus writes a letter, the Epistola De Magnete, to a friend of his back home, another soldier named Sigirus de Fauconcourt. Now, sure, other people had noticed the strange properties of the lodestone, the magnet, but they were mostly just writing down what they saw. Peregrinus was about to do something completely different. He was going to experiment systematically.
And he had a reputation for this stuff. This was the exact mindset Peregrinus brought to the study of the magnet.
Peregrinus actually called his own work an unpolished narrative about the hidden virtue of the lodestone. He wasn't just interested in talking about magnetism, he wanted to get his hands dirty and really understand it. This right here, this is a huge step toward the modern scientific method.
And Peregrinus spells out his philosophy right from the beginning. To him, science wasn't just a thinking game. It was about skill, about what he called manual dexterity. He basically argued that if you couldn't skillfully handle the materials you were studying, you were bound to make mistakes. He was championing the idea of the master craftsman as a key part of discovering new knowledge. And this philosophy led to these incredibly clear, repeatable procedures. Just take his method for finding a magnet's poles. He was the first to ever describe this. First, shape the lodestone into a sphere. Then, lay a needle on it and trace the lines of force. He saw that, just like meridians on a globe, all the lines he drew met at two very specific opposite points. And get this, he was the very first person to call them the North and South Poles.
Now, for Peregrinus, this wasn't just a neat feature of a rock, it was a mirror of the entire cosmos. He saw this beautiful analogy. Just as the whole sky seems to pivot on the north and south celestial poles, the magnet's power was organized around its two poles. He actually believed the magnet's power came from the heavens, an idea that would directly influence William Gilbert's theory of the Earth as a giant magnet hundreds of years later.
And from this single framework, he just starts laying out the fundamental laws of magnetism for the very first time. He proved that unlike poles attract and like poles repel. He showed that if you break a magnet, you don't get a separate north piece and a south piece, you get two brand new, complete magnets, each with its own set of poles. That was a truly profound insight into how magnetism actually worked. And these two images illustrate his ideas perfectly. On the left, that's a terrella, a little Earth, which is a spherical magnet that William Gilbert used in 1600 to model Earth's magnetic field, an idea straight out of Peregrinus' playbook. And on the right, you see the concept that you can never isolate a magnetic pole, a principle that is still a cornerstone of physics today. Okay, so this was a brilliant private letter, written in a military camp. But how did it become so influential? Well, its journey from a personal manuscript to a foundational text of science was a long one, and it's pretty fascinating. For nearly 300 years, the letter just circulated in handwritten copies. It wasn't until 1558 that it was finally printed. Its ideas were so good that they were even plagiarized in 1562. But the really big moment came in 1600, when William Gilbert, who we consider the father of magnetic studies, leaned heavily on Peregrinus' experiments in his own massive work, De Magnete. You have to remember, beyond the pure theory, Peregrinus was an engineer at heart. In the second part of his letter, he describes some very practical inventions, including this, a dry, pivoted compass with a full 360-degree scale so you could take accurate bearings. This was a gigantic leap forward from the simple floating needles they were using at the time, and it's a direct ancestor of the modern mariner's compass. So, Peregrinus' work wasn't just a seed. You could say it was the entire root system from which much of our modern understanding of magnetism has grown. And his legacy isn't just something we look back on. It's active and recognized today. In fact, the European Geosciences Union actually awards the Petrus Peregrinus Medal for outstanding contributions in magnetism. I mean, that's a pretty powerful testament to the fact that his methodical, hands-on approach is still the gold standard in the very field he helped create. So, what can a 13th century engineer actually teach us today? Well, his method offers three timeless lessons. First, embrace first principles. Don't just take someone's word for it. Test things yourself. Second, document and share, clearly. His letter only made an impact because he wrote it all down. And third, find science everywhere. Peregrinus proved that you don't need a perfect lab for a breakthrough. You just need a curious and methodical mind.
So when you think of Petrus Peregrinus, just remember this journey. From the trenches, he found the poles, and from the poles, he pointed the way to the truth.
And that brings us to your call to action. Honor his legacy. This week, I want you to find just one problem or one assumption in your own work and apply his spirit of rigorous, direct, hands-on experimentation to it. Get your hands dirty.
Disclaimer and bibliography in the description.